started. Welcome so much to this series. My name is Willow O'Brien and from Stitch Labs, and we have got an exciting program today. This is our first of 4 webinars on this free series for small business owners, and we're really excited to share some amazing tools and tips for you to boost your productivity and save time and sell more in 2012. So a few administrative things before we get started. First, it's fantastic that you're all actually on the call because we're going to have a few opportunities to ask questions. You will get these recordings after the fact, which is fantastic as well, so that you can listen again or review or just listen in at your leisure. But it's really good to know that you're here because I'm going to ask some questions to this expert right away. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our expert today. This is our friend and fantastic personal organizer and speaker, Josh Zerkel. He is a certified professional organizer and the founder of Custom Living Solutions, San Francisco's top-rated and award-winning productivity and organizing consulting firm. Josh specializes in helping entrepreneurs and small businesses find easy ways to get control of their space, information, time, and technology so they can reduce stress and boost their productivity and their profits. Josh has been featured in various media, including the Etsy blog, CBS News, ABC News, the San Francisco Chronicle, Examiner, Organize Magazine, Online Organizing, and many others. He's a regular columnist on the Franklin Covey website and is actually one of the first Evernote ambassadors. Josh is a well-known speaker who has spoken internationally to busy professionals about the different techniques you can use to optimize efficiency and productivity in your work environment so that you can serve more clients and make more money. Josh works with clients both in person locally in San Francisco and virtually in locations around the world. Welcome so much to the call, Josh. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Willow. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to share this really valuable information with everyone that's hopefully going to get everyone listening off to a great start in 2012.
Awesome.
So without further ado,
yeah, go for it.
Let's start today's presentation so I can give you guys some great tips. So one of the things that you really want to consider when you are talking about getting more done or boosting your productivity in 2012 and beyond is really to consider what I think are 7 key areas of productivity. You may have 1 or 2 of these areas under control. You may even have a few. But what I've noticed when I work with small business people is that there's always one of these areas that could use some fine-tuning. And when you get all of these up and running and humming along, that's when your business really starts to take off. Now, we won't go into each of these in a lot of detail today, but I want you to start putting these on your radar and think about how you plan to address each one in 2012. So first, you want to have a plan for how you're going to get and stay organized and productive. It's really hard if you say to yourself, I'm going to organize my home office this weekend. Usually that ends up in disaster for most people because you might start organizing your home office, but you don't have a really clear endpoint or goal in mind. You end up taking a lot of stuff out of your storage area or your supply room, and you end up with a big mess, and that gets really overwhelming. So you want to have a step-by-step plan for how you're going to tackle each of your organizing and productivity projects and have a really clear end goal in mind for why you're doing it in the first place. Then most of us need to do some pruning or editing, as I like to think of it. That's where we cull down the things that we're keeping into the things that we actually want, need, or use. Especially for crafty folks, I know there's a lot of tendency to keep all sorts of extra supplies around. Some of it is for inspiration, but in my experience working with professionals in this field, there's often a lot of extra stuff that's just there due to inertia more than anything. So you want to make sure that you're weeding out the things that you truly won't use anymore to make room for the things that you do want to keep and use in the future. Then once you've gotten rid of all of the extra stuff, you need to make some room for the things that are left that you want to hold on to. And that's where we organize your space. You want to make sure that everything that you're keeping, especially if this is for your business, is organized in a way that makes it really easy for you to access everything that you need right when you need it and not have to go searching or digging through your storage area, your containers, trying to find that one bit of scraps that you're looking for to finish up that project that you're working on. You want everything really organized and easily accessible. The next area you want to focus on is your paper. Now, what we're talking about today in particular, we're talking about digital information, but for all of us, there's still going to be some paper that you need to keep and hold on to, and others that you're going to generate yourself by printing things out, for instance. All of your paper needs to be managed. And one of the big differentiators that I've seen between businesses that are really successful and those that are not is that the ones that are truly successful, no matter their size, have really clear, defined ways that paper gets managed. Because paper is often a critical point of information for us. So you want to make sure that you have a strategy for dealing with all of the paper that's in your world. Then you want to focus on your technology. You want to make sure that you have strategies and systems and tools in place that serve you well. What I see more often than not is the flip side of this, where you may have lots of technology, but you're not confident how to use it, or you have the wrong apps for the goals that you're trying to achieve. So you want to make sure that your technology is matched up with your technical skill and for the goals that you're trying to accomplish. You don't want technology just for technology's sake. And then underlying all of these other areas is how you manage your time. How you process your tasks, how you get to your priorities, how you tackle your to-dos is critical when it comes time to getting the right things done. So you want strategies for how you're going to manage all of the different hats that you need to wear in your business so that you get all of the right things done. And then finally, once you've taken the time to set up all of these systems, you want some strategies for how you're going to maintain them over time. There's no system that's been invented yet where your papers automatically jump out of the mailbox and into your filing cabinet. And there's no system that automatically goes through all of your email for you. At least not yet. Until then, you need a strategy for how you're going to keep these systems up over time. Now, these 7 areas together I call the profitable productivity system because I think all of them are really necessary if you want to truly be productive in your business and thereby profitable. So keep all of these on your radar. Now, today we're going to be talking about 4 different online tools that can really help boost your productivity in your business. Before we talk about each of the specific tools, let's talk a little bit about what online tools are. Now, you may hear the term the cloud, apps, web apps, online apps. Essentially, all of these mean the same thing. What we're talking about is software that lives on a server somewhere else other than your computer, where you log in with a username and password in order to access your data and act on it. This is different than software that you would install on your computer. For instance, Microsoft Office is a good example, where you insert a disk into your computer, you install it, and the software lives there. By definition, all online tools live online on someone else's server that you access via the internet, typically via a web browser. Many services are either free or subscription-based, where you pay a fee annually or every month, and it varies from service to service. Now, there are definite pluses and minuses when it comes to working with online tools. In the plus category, first, these tools are usually very easy setup. You don't typically need to install any software on your computer. You don't need to worry about whether the software is compatible with the computer that you have. Typically, the only setup that you'll do is going to a web page and logging in with your username and password. Beyond that, very little technical setup that you need to do. If you're in a mixed environment where you have Macs and PCs or maybe even Linux computers, typically in the past you would need to buy a different software version for each one of those computers because they're not compatible with each other. Since online tools are accessed through a web browser, you can use the same tool on any computer without purchasing different versions. I really like this because for my small business clients, we're always looking at what we can do to shave off costs so that we can improve the bottom line. And not having to buy multiple versions of the same software is a great way to do that. Also a plus that can save you money and time is that you'll no longer need to worry about software upgrading. Typically in the past, if you had software that lived on your computer, you'd get a note saying that there was something new that you needed to download, a patch, or an update, or you need to buy a new version. With online tools, typically there's no upgrade that you need to do. All the upgrades happen on the server end. The company makes an update to a product, and you just see it the next time that you log in. There's nothing for you to do. And as a special bonus, these tools are usually cheap or free. By cheap, I mean under $25 per person per month, or less in many cases, especially the tools that we'll be looking at today are vastly under that amount. So this is another way that you can save money by using online tools. You don't have that huge outlay of cash that you would for a typical piece of software like QuickBooks, for instance, which can be hundreds of dollars. Now, sadly, not all sunshine and rainbows in the world of online tools. While they're great, there are a few things that you want to consider. First, since they're online, you need to be connected to the internet in order to use them. What this means essentially is that if you use dial-up or a very slow or sporadic internet connection, these tools won't be easily or readily accessible to you, and the experience you have with them may not be entirely satisfying. So you want to make sure that you have at least a regular, pretty fast internet connection to have a satisfying user experience. Now, in a previous life, I used to be a user interface designer, and this is the person that designs how things look and flow on the screen in terms of how you interact with the given software application. So for me, how things look and feel is really important. You'll probably notice if you've used a bunch of different online tools, or maybe even just a few, that things look different than desktop software that you might be used to. A good example of this is if you've ever used Microsoft Office and then switched to Google Docs. Google Docs, while great, probably isn't quite as polished in terms of the interface and the features as what you'd find in, let's say, Microsoft Office 2010. Regardless of how you feel about Google or Microsoft, it's easy to note the differences in the interfaces of their various products. And you'll definitely notice a difference with most online tools. Although the ones we're looking at today have extremely polished user interfaces where they've really thought through how the end user wants to use the tools. So we're looking at some of the best of breed here today. One of the biggest concerns that people mention to me when we're talking about online tools is security. By definition, your data is stored somewhere other than your own computer when you use an online tool or online application. So you want to make sure that you've checked into a company's security and privacy policies to make sure that they're in line with what your own values and company policies are in terms of how you keep data safe. And then finally, this is sometimes a bigger deal for my clients than it may be for some of you listening, but if you're the type of person that really likes to own that piece of software, you like seeing that box with the disk inside on the shelf, online tools may not be entirely satisfying for you because you'll never get a disk in the mail. They're not going to send you a user manual. At most, you'll receive a confirmation email saying, hey, thanks for signing up. Here's your username, and here's the website where you need to go to log in. To me, I think this is a big plus. It's one less piece of clutter that you need to worry about, but it is something to consider. You'll never get that box in the mail. So now that we've covered some of the pluses and minuses, let's take a look at what we'll be talking about today. We'll be going through 4 best of breed, that means they're all really great, tools to help you stay organized and productive and profitable in 2012. We'll be talking about how to manage your ideas and notes using Evernote. We'll be talking about how to manage your inventory and your sales flow with Stitch Labs. We'll be talking about how to keep track of your receipts and your contacts with Shoeboxed, and then how to make sense of all your financial data with Outright. And we'll have some time at the end of each one of these sections to answer your questions as they come up. Think about how you keep track of your notes and your little pieces of information. We're not talking about the documents you keep on your computer, but the idea that just popped into your head, or the sample of fabric that you saw at the store that you weren't yet ready to buy. For the idea that popped into your head, you might call yourself and leave a message on your voicemail. Or for the scrap of fabric that you saw at the fabric store that you liked, maybe you take a picture of it with your camera or your phone and you email it to yourself. Those are both really great places to start, but what you really need is a repository, a central spot for all that stuff so that you can find it really easily when you need it. And that's what Evernote is so great at. It lets you capture your information virtually any way you can think of. Then you can easily search for things and find the bit of information that you're looking for instantly. And if you have mobile devices or multiple computers, it lets you easily synchronize all of that stuff so you can find it anywhere really quickly and easily. Let's look at it in a little more detail. First, Evernote lets you capture all your stuff in really easy, natural ways. You can scan documents in. Let's say that you ripped a couple of things out of a magazine that were great for ideas. You could scan those in. If you're browsing a web page and you found a great idea for a new project, you can clip the entire page and bring it into Evernote. You can take pictures with your camera or your cell phone and send them directly to Evernote instead of sending them to your email. You can capture a voice recording if you're on the go, maybe you're in the car and you want to capture something that popped into your head. You can take Evernote on your phone, record your voice, and then that will be stored in your Evernote database as well. If you're creating documents on the computer, you can drag them in really easily also. So here's an example. This is actually my Evernote notebook here. I had a project in my house where I was updating some windows. And when I would go shopping for windows, I could never remember what the dimensions were. I'm really great at a lot of things, but remembering things is not one of them. So I would go to the store and I could never remember. And of course, the window people at the store couldn't help me. So what I did instead was the next time I went back to my house, I took some measurements of the windows. And I took a snapshot of that piece of paper with the measurements on it. And I sent that into Evernote. Then when I went to the store, if I happened to be by a window store, instead of planning to go to one if I just happened to be by one, I didn't need to worry about having that sheet of paper with the sketch on it. Instead, I just looked it up on my phone, and there was the note with the dimensions that I needed. This is just one of the literally endless ways that you could use Evernote, but I find it especially helpful if you're out in the world and trying to capture things that you want to remember later. You can simply put them into Evernote, and you'll have them at the ready. Evernote is not just great for getting stuff in, it's also great for finding the things that you need when you need them. Because as you capture bits of information, Evernote, if there's any text on the thing that you've captured, especially if it's a photo or a document that you've scanned in or a web page that you've clicked, Evernote recognizes the text that's there. It does what's called OCR, or optical character recognition, which lets you then search for text. So for instance, this is someone I met at a networking event. He owns a deli. I love sandwiches, and I wanted to go to this deli, but I wasn't sure when. So this isn't the type of thing that would make it into my address book because he's not really a business or a personal contact. It's just a place I want to go. So I scanned it in. And then now all I need to do is search for the word deli, and this business card will pop up, along with any other things that have deli in the note. So it could be a recipe for a sandwich or other delis that I want to go to. Think about how you could use this for your business. Let's say you've been capturing a lot of different patterns online as ideas for the types of things that you might want to create in the future. You've been clipping those web pages into Evernote, and the next time you want to get some inspiration for creating a hat, you would just search for hat, and all of those notes that had hats in them would pop up quickly and easily without you having to go and dig through your bookmarks on your computer, for instance. Once they're in Evernote, you can really easily organize them by tagging them or by putting them into notebooks, which are kind of like folders. It makes it really easy to find your stuff when you need it. As I mentioned, Evernote is a really great place for all of those things that could be useful someday or might be useful, you're just not sure when. Here's a good example. This was an article that I found online on the Wired website. I thought it was really interesting. It was about how to deliver bad news in a good way. And all of us have to deliver bad news to someone at some point. I don't have to deliver any bad news now, but I'm sure at some point I will. And when I do, it would probably be a really great idea to have some sort of guideline that could help me walk through the process of what I'm guessing would probably be a pretty challenging situation. So this is not the type of article that's actionable to me right now, but this certainly could be useful someday. So I captured the web page with the article, sent it into Evernote, and now if I ever need to find this article, all I need to remember is that it had the word bad news in it, and the article pops up instantly. I don't really need to remember anything else about it other than bad news. So this can be really great if you're clipping any sort of articles or information that could be useful to you at some future point. So Evernote is really great for helping you capture your ideas, whatever format they may be in, and helping you clear out lots of bits and scraps of paper clutter. One of my favorite ways to help clients with Evernote is if they're writing down information on lots of little scraps of paper. we take pictures of each of those little scraps of paper and send them into a notebook in Evernote. So now they don't have to worry about whether they've lost those little scraps or Post-it notes. This is really great if you've got that nice frame of sticky notes around your computer monitor, and I'm guessing some of you on the line may have that. I've seen it so often, and this is a really great way to alleviate that problem. So in Evernote, you can capture all of those little bits of information, all of those miscellaneous pieces that you don't know where else to put. You can store them in Evernote and easily find them later, because the search is so powerful. What's great about Evernote is you can make it flex to however you want to organize. You can put things in notebooks, you can tag them, or you can choose to not organize them at all and just rely on the search function. And as I mentioned, Evernote synchronizes amongst all of your mobile devices, so you can quickly and easily access your stuff wherever you happen to be. And one of the other great things about Evernote is that it's so popular that it's become its own software platform of sorts. So there's many other tools that hook into Evernote and let you find your stuff across many of your different online tools and applications. Evernote is free to start. All of the things I mentioned that it can do, you can do for free. If you want to start sending a lot of pictures or documents into Evernote, you'll reach an upload limit of about, I think it's 60 megabytes per month. And truthfully, you can get pretty far under 60 megabytes. But if you're planning on bringing a lot in or capturing a lot of your ideas visually with your camera, you want to pay for the premium, which gets you 1 gigabyte of uploadable files per month. Honestly, Evernote is one of my favorite tools. I recommend it almost without fail to all of my clients. It's a fantastic productivity booster.
Wonderful. Yeah, Evernote is absolutely one of my favorites as well. And because I think there's something to be said for just the huge void of bookmarks. I know I've added stuff to my bookmarks for years and they sort of just stay in my browser bookmarks to die. This is like a way to like organize them, get really clear, and have even a visual, which is, I think, great for artists like us.
Absolutely. And what's nice is that instead of bookmarking, bookmark is kind of like purgatory. Like hardly any of us ever go back. It's amazing. Like I've met clients who have thousands and thousands of bookmarks, and I ask them how often they access them, and they say never. So if you're really interested in keeping a piece of information, this is a better place to keep it because it actually captures the entire web page, not just the bookmark, and it keeps it permanently. So you know, if you've ever gone back to a bookmark that's maybe a year old, the page may not even be there anymore. And Evernote actually captures the page so you can find all of that stuff without worrying whether the page is gone.
Absolutely. Yeah, if any of you guys have any other questions, please type them into the question box. One thing that we have a question about, one of the people that is in with us today, Juliet asks if you could talk a little bit more about security with some of these online tools, and just like how secure is your information if you're putting all of this stuff into Evernote. Is it live? Can everyone see it? Talk to us a little bit about that.
That's a really good question. Across different tools, the answer varies. Generally, tools don't share your information, like especially publicly, without your express permission. So for instance, in Evernote, all of your notebooks by default are private. You can choose to share them with other people, but it's a pretty deliberate process. You have to go into a notebook, click share, then enter the email address of the person you want to share it with, send them the link, and then they're able to see it. So it's very hard. I don't even see how it could happen accidentally. You can set certain notebooks to public, but then people still need the link in order to see it. So for instance, one way you could use this to your advantage is if you're working with a distributor on some ideas that you're coming up with, you could put your ideas into a publicly shared notebook in Evernote and then share that link with the distributor rather than sending emails back and forth. And they could just see the updates that you've been making in there. So publicly shared notebooks can be helpful. It's best to be really deliberate about how you use them. I really like how in Evernote everything is private by default, and you get to choose if you want to make it different than that. But across the different tools, especially the ones that we'll be talking about, one of the things I mentioned in the beginning is how important it is that you read up on security policies. All the companies that we're looking at today, they have really strong security policies in place. But it's your job as a consumer to be informed. So you'll want to read up on privacy policies and security policies to make sure that you feel comfortable with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes it can be a little bit jargony, but one thing that I feel like is pretty great. I mean, you can even ask the simple question to any of these startups, just saying like, how secure is my data? And I know with a lot of cloud companies right now and these web app companies, they are like, security is a very important thing to them too. They know that if anything were to breach your confidence in them, that you wouldn't use their service anymore. So while it's good to know what's public and what's not, for example, with Twitter and Facebook and some of those tools, at any time you could definitely, I recommend, if you're really concerned and it's sort of prohibiting you from utilizing a tool as freely as you want, to ask them, and they'll be happy to help you. One other question that we got, which I actually can answer just out of ease, is if Evernote can be used on a BlackBerry. And just wanted to say that yes, in fact, it's great for iPhones, but it's also great for Androids, BlackBerries. Any others you can think of that I'm missing, Josh?
Yeah, even if you don't have a smartphone but just have web access on your phone, they make a mobile web browser version. So they make a version specifically for Palm, for Android, for Windows Mobile, for iPhone, of course, and am I missing anything? Oh, BlackBerry. And they make an iPad-specific version. Basically, whatever you have, they make a version for it. They're very interested in making sure that all mobile devices are covered.
Great. Another question for you is, can you forward emails to Evernote?
Yes. When you sign up for Evernote, when you open your free account, they'll give you a special @evernote.com email address where you can forward emails or things that have been sent to you, or even if you just want to write an email yourself and forward it in. So yes, you do get that, and it's a really cool feature.
Great. Okay, we are actually going to move on to the next. We're going to have a little time at the end for more questions, but right now we're going to let Josh continue with his presentation.
Okay. So let's say that you've been collecting lots of information in Evernote and you've been coming up with some great product ideas. You make some products and you sell some. Great. Now you need to start keeping track of all that stuff, because once you start making more than a sale here and a sale there, things can quickly get overwhelming, and I'm sure some of you have probably experienced this, especially if you're selling at a combination of places like online, at trade shows, at trunk shows, maybe you're selling like at pop-up events or in stores. That's a lot for you to keep track of. So you'll want a tool that can help you do that. One tool that's really great and specifically designed for makers and designers is Stitch. Stitch essentially captures all of the different ways that you sell your stuff and helps you make sense of it. No matter where you're selling, through trade shows or consignment or trunk shows or craft fairs or even your Etsy store or your own site if you have a store on your site, Stitch helps you manage all of that inventory and then make sense of it. And that's what I think is really powerful. There's lots of inventory management tools out there, but Stitch helps you take it one step further so that you can make real sense of what's happening in your business. Now, Stitch lets you start out by integrating with whatever store you're already using. So if you are using an Etsy store, or maybe you have Shopify installed on your site, or maybe something else, they're integrating more tools all the time, you can integrate what you already have with Stitch. So it starts getting data directly from the tools that you're already using. And then from there, you can create really beautiful print-ready line sheets so that you can send them to existing or potential wholesale or consignment customers. And if you're selling online, especially on Etsy, there's a really great way that Stitch and Etsy have integrated where you automatically have a relisting feature in Etsy. And you can set it to only relist your items only if you have that inventory in stock. So it takes some of that manual data re-entry off your hands. One of the things you want to look for when you're choosing online tools is what can it do for you that will specifically save you time, especially with mundane tasks like data entry. And that's one of the things that I really like about Stitch, is that it handles some of that mundanity for you, which is really nice. Then, once you've started making orders, you want a place to manage them. In Stitch, all of your orders, wherever they happen to come from, whatever channel it is, whether it's wholesale, trade show, pop-up shop, whatever, are all centralized in one spot. So you don't have to go searching or digging through different Excel spreadsheets or printouts, trying to find and make sense of where your sales have been coming from and how much from each. All of it is centralized in Stitch. And then from there, you can really easily print out invoices and packing slips for your mail order or your wholesale customers, making it really professional, adding that extra level of polish onto the sales that you're making. And then another benefit of Stitch is that it lets you really easily organize all the stuff that you're keeping inside of it, including your inventory, the sales that you've been making, and then data about your customers and what they've been buying. What's really nice is that if you've been trying to make sense of your business using something like an Excel spreadsheet, unless you're a mathematician or a bookkeeper, it can be really hard to keep track of things like who's buying what, where are they buying it from, who are my best customers. This is really essential information that lets you make smart business decisions, and you want easy ways to generate this kind of reporting. And what's great about Stitch is that it lets you get a snapshot anytime into what's going on right now in your business, including inventory levels, whether you have money that's waiting to be paid to you from a wholesaler or a distributor. And what's also really nice is that it lets you very easily stay in the loop with the people who matter to you. And in this case, in business, it's probably your customers, your sales reps, your vendors, your suppliers. These are the people who matter to you. And you want to be able to very easily keep in the loop with these folks, and Stitch makes that process really, really easy. And here's what I think is the killer feature of using Stitch, is it helps you make sense of what's going on in your business. I've worked with so many creative professionals that when I ask them things like, what are your best-selling products? Who are your best customers? Where do most of your sales come from? And they give me kind of a blank stare. The blank stare always worries me because it means that there's a lack of information there. And of course, it's not your job to necessarily automatically know how to create the information that you need. We want to look for tools and services that can help us find that information. And so the great thing about Stitch is it does that for you really beautifully, easily, and with very little effort on your part. So this is a sample report that you might see in Stitch, where you can get a real-time snapshot of what's going on without you doing a lot of work. You can see where your sales are coming from, what your most popular sales channels are, what items are selling the most. You can then make smart decisions about, okay, lots of things are selling at pop-up shows but not online. Are there tweaks that I can do online to sell more? Or are there different products that I should be shifting to a different channel? And you can also make smart decisions about how you spend your time. Since you're probably making a good chunk of your products yourself, or at least working on the designs yourself, you want to make sure that you're spending time on the right things, the things that are generating you real revenue. And this is a way to find out, with real numbers, what's going to be worth it for you and what isn't. So Stitch is a great way for you to get smarter in your business without you having to do a whole lot of extra work. It manages all of your inventory, all of your sales, all of your channels, and your customers who's buying what in one spot. It lets you add some professional polish by sending really nice looking invoices. It integrates with tools you probably are already using, which is really nice. You don't have to reinvent your wheel. And then as I showed you in the previous screen, it helps you make smart decisions about what steps to take in your business. This is about productivity, right? So when we're talking about productivity, we're talking about doing the right thing, not just doing more things. So you may not necessarily want to go out there and just make a whole bunch of more products. You might want to go out instead and make more of the right products and sell through the right channels. And Stitch helps you make that type of decision so that you can be informed when you're deciding what to do with your business. And of course, since Stitch is web-based, you can access it from anywhere, any web browser or your smartphone. So when you're at that trunk show, you can, in real time, get data on your business.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We have a great question here, and if any of you guys have any other questions, please ask them in the question box. I actually also have my partner, Jake Gasaway, on the phone, and he's really one of the people who interacts most with all of our customers and gets all these fantastic questions. If any of you guys have any questions at any time, you can reach out to Jake, and he's really responsive, really fast. The question that came up, which is something we get a lot, is all about if Stitch handles raw materials and just how you can calculate your costs for your finished product and this, that, and the other, because raw materials, especially for any crafters, are so vital. So I'm going to just let Jake get on the line and answer that question quick.
Thank you, Willow. Everybody, this is Jake. Thank you for having me. The raw materials question we do get quite a bit. We actually get the raw materials and components questions. And really, we are best at managing finished goods at this point. We've got plans this year to manage more component pieces, and that'll help you get a really accurate cost of goods sold. But at this time, it's more of an estimate on cost of goods sold based on the components that go into your products, because it can get really challenging when you think about how to calculate costs, because there's more than just the raw materials or components. It goes to overhead, depreciation. There's a lot of very challenging pieces that go into that. So we're spending a lot of time in 2012 to make sure we do that right before we release those features. So more to come on that front.
Cool, thanks so much. We also got another question I'm going to keep you on the line for quick, is if this handles service-related types of businesses, and I know we get that question a lot too.
Right, actually Stitch is mostly focused on product-based companies. There are several companies that do use Stitch for service items or to help them track time, but it's really geared towards product-based companies. So if you do have service needs, we're more than happy to talk you through that if you want to reach out to us individually.
Cool, thanks. And then our one last question, and we're going to keep cruising right ahead, is from Juliet, and just asking if Stitch keeps track of accounting or more just the inventory, and I can speak to that. I have had my own product business as well with you guys, so I'm familiar with all the pain points and all the necessary things that we need to have a good view into our business. And that is the beauty of Stitch, is that it not only handles the inventory, but essentially is taking into account all of your income, your orders, everything that's your money coming in for all those sales. But then also there is a whole expenses section. So you are able to record your expenses in there. And that's nice, because then on our reports, which I get super geeked about, our reports are pretty fantastic, and you get to dynamically work with them all to kind of like dive deeper into seeing what's selling the best, and it actually has, it calculates there for you sort of your profits and takes into consideration your expenses. Also, just in line with the accounting piece of what Stitch has to offer, is that you're able to export all of your data at any time to QuickBooks if you use that, or you can export it in a CSV file if you just want to hand that to your bookkeeper and accountant. We are also actually, well, it's not official yet, we have great pals at Outright, which Josh is actually going to be talking about here pretty soon, and we're hoping at some point here in this year to be doing an integration with them, so that it can really be this. Right now they don't handle inventory at all. So it's a fantastic partnership for us and them, because we can help all these businesses that have inventory, and they can help us with the accounting side and kind of like hooking into your banks and all that. So that's it for those questions. Let's get Josh going on the next round.
Okay, thanks so much, Willow and Jake. So let's talk about another piece that might be dragging you down in your business. If you're at all like a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, you're probably drowning in a sea of little bits of paper in the form of receipts and business cards. Now, if you're like the people I work with, maybe around now at the beginning of tax season, you go through that shoebox full of receipts, or the bag that you've been stuffing all the receipts into, and you try to make sense of them. Or the business cards that have been collecting dust at the bottom of your drawer, you may just throw another business card in there from a networking event, or maybe you go through them at some point. But either way, you're going to have to be doing some data entry, and that is a drag. So we need a different solution to save you time with both of these two pieces. The tool that I actually personally use and recommend for this is called Shoeboxed. This is a really awesome tool and service. how it works is Shoeboxed sends you a prepaid envelope, kind of like a Netflix envelope, where you stuff your receipts and your business cards inside of it. Or you can take pictures of receipts with your smartphone and send them to Shoeboxed. Or you can scan receipts if you have a scanner. Or you can forward email receipts or invoices to Shoeboxed. Then they make sense of those receipts for you, saving you lots and lots of time. Shoeboxed actually goes through each of your receipts and extracts the information that you'd want from each one. Things like the vendor name, how you paid for an item, how much the receipt was for, when you made the purchase. All of that information that you'd want for your record keeping gets captured automatically by Shoeboxed. You don't have to do a thing. And then Shoeboxed categorizes things for you. And of course, you can recategorize things yourself if you'd like later, but Shoeboxed does a lot of the work for you by doing that. Once things are in Shoeboxed, that's really just the beginning, because Shoeboxed is more than just a repository for your receipts. It's really a way for you to make sense of what's there and report on things in ways that will help you later. So you can very quickly and easily create reports for your different types of expenses. You can create reports on the different categories. So if you wanted to see, for instance, how much you spent just on raw materials, you could do that. You can look in detail at individual transactions. So for instance, let's say that you were in your bookkeeping system and you saw a charge that was for an amount that you weren't expecting. You could go into Shoeboxed, find that one charge, and if you'd scanned in the receipt or sent it to Shoeboxed, it would be right there with all of the details. Since Shoeboxed extracts all of this information from your receipts, everything that's on the receipt is now searchable, including the vendor name, the amount, the date. So you can very quickly and easily find those receipts that you need right when you need them, rather than having to go dig through that bag or box full of crumpled receipts. As an aside, one of the things that I've seen with some of my clients is they've been keeping receipts for a long time. And lots of different receipts come with thermal paper. And thermal paper fades over time. And so if you're at all concerned about keeping your receipts for record keeping or for the IRS does not accept faded receipts that can't be read. So one of the great benefits of using Shoeboxed is that they scan your receipt, you have a full picture of it, so in the event of an audit, you won't have to worry about your receipts being faded. They'll be right there ready for you to show that you made that actual expense. Another benefit of Shoeboxed is that for those other little bits of paper, those business cards that you've been collecting from vendors or from networking partners or potential clients or customers, so many of us work really hard to network, and then we don't do any follow-up because we don't get the business cards into our databases. Shoeboxed automates that process for you. So along with your receipt, you can stuff business cards into that envelope that they send you. And then just like with the receipt, Shoeboxed extracts the information that you want from each of those business cards. So things like the person's name, their company, their contact information like phone, email, web address, etc. All of that gets captured along with the front and back of the cards. So for those of us that are really visual, we still get that reminder of what their card looks like, which in many cases can help us remember who that person is. I really like that feature a lot. So Shoeboxed is great because it helps you capture all of the stuff that might be languishing in a box or in a drawer or a bag right now, and then helps you not just make sense of it by capturing all the information from the receipts and the business cards, but it lets you organize it and make use of it in ways that make sense for you. Because again, the reason why we keep all this stuff is so that it can be actionable. We want to be able to have all of our expense information available so that we can make sense of our finances and we can easily prepare for tax time. We want to make sure that we capture our contacts so that we can follow up in appropriate ways with them in a timely manner. And just like with Evernote, Shoeboxed connects really well with other tools that you may already be using. You'll see that as a common theme here. Both Stitch, Evernote, Shoeboxed, and Outright, which we'll be talking about in a minute, connect with other services so that you can get a really nice 360-degree view of your information. That saves you time and, again, helps you make smart decisions. Shoeboxed costs $10 a month for your first 50 items that you might be scanning. And for many small businesses, this is more than enough. And this honestly is one of the tools that I use. It saves me lots of time because I don't have to worry about entering data manually anymore. It happens automatically via Shoeboxed.
Awesome. Yes, I love Shoeboxed. In fact, on the webinar that we have coming up next week, there's one on Thursday. I think it's the 24th. I'm going to be actually doing my talk is all about contact management, and it's really going to be me talking about that in conjunction with Shoeboxed and Stitch. It's such a crucial thing for small business owners. We've got a few great questions coming in, and the first one that I feel like Josh can speak to is, can you export this data to Excel or your desktop?
Yes, you can. From Shoeboxed, you can create Excel spreadsheets and I believe also CSV files. So you can get your data out whenever you want to.
And I don't know if you already said this, Josh, but did you talk about the integrations in terms of like exporting your contacts to Constant Contact and some of the other mail service providers?
I didn't, but I would be happy to. What's great about getting your contact information into Shoeboxed is then you can get it out and put it where you really need to use it. So whether that's your CRM or customer relationship manager or your email list manager, you can then easily get your stuff from one place to another. And Shoeboxed has some really nice integrations with many of the popular providers that are out there. Also, it integrates with Evernote. So you can get your stuff in and out in really nice, slick ways that help you make use of your data.
Yeah, I was so impressed with that when I started using Shoeboxed. It really allows you to export to all sorts of different formats, which is so cool because everyone has something different. Go ahead.
What's nice about all of these tools is that it's such a different mentality from how software companies used to be, where they wanted to be the only place where your data could live. What's great is that so many tools, especially of the new web generation of having online apps, is that your data, they're happy to let it be shared amongst tools that help you make more sense of your stuff, or help you use it in ways that are useful. And that's one thing that I really appreciate.
Yeah, exactly, which is supporting small business owners in such a great way. One question for you that I'm hoping you can answer is, do you know if those receipts that are stored through Shoeboxed are accepted by the IRS?
They are.
Awesome. Yeah, I should start doing that, man. I've got mine in shoeboxes around here. I think that's why they called it that. That's awesome. I mostly just scan business cards, which I've got lots to say about. I just absolutely love that product. So fantastic. One of the final questions, and then we're going to move on, is, do you happen to know what they do with the physical receipts or cards that you send them?
They shred them.
They do. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're securely.
All right.
Yep.
Good to know. All right, then let's move on. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so our final tool that we'll be looking at helps you make sense of all of the entirety of your business's financial information. So we've been talking about different tools that help you make sense of pieces of it, and those are all really important because they give you a different slice of your business. But when you want to look at your overall financial picture, you want something that is really comprehensive, that also plays well with other tools. And for that, I recommend Outright. Outright I like to think of as QuickBooks without tears, because so many of my clients in small business have been told along the way that QuickBooks is it when it comes to managing your small business's finances. And I'm here to tell you it ain't true. There are lots of other tools out there that can help you manage your small business finances. And unless you're interested in becoming an accountant or a bookkeeper, QuickBooks may not be the right tool for you. There are simpler, easier ways to manage your business's finances. And one tool that I really like for doing this is Outright. Outright integrates with your bank and also with the other places that you might be selling your stuff, like Etsy, for instance, or a different online store that you may have of your own. And it pulls all of that information automatically into its database, where you can then make sense of your money. Just like QuickBooks lets you create categories for your different expense and income categories, Outright does it as well. And then it will automatically categorize your stuff for you. And this could be true for purchases that you yourself have made for your business. It could be true for vendors that you are using on a regular basis as well. And as I mentioned, tools should be flexible, and Outright lets you customize your stuff in any way that you want with your own categories. You can organize things how they make sense to you. You don't have to worry about the system being not flexible for your needs. And as I mentioned, one of the things that you want to do in order to be more productive is to be able to make smart decisions about how you spend your time and resources in your business. And one area that you'll need data on is your finances. So of course you'll want to, at a glance, see what your account balances are for cash flow. You want to be able to generate quick and easy profit and loss statements so that you can be certain about an expense that's coming up or one that might be in the past, or just think strategically about things that you're trying to accomplish. And of course, how much you're spending in your business. And Outright lets you very quickly and easily create those reports so that you can analyze them, make sense of them, and then make decisions based on that data. So Outright does some really cool stuff. It lets you create, just like Stitch does, slices of data, but maybe some slightly different ones. So you can use both tools together and get real information that you can use in your business to take the right action. So you can see, for instance, a report on who your biggest vendors are or your best customers. Or one that's actually, I think, really interesting is if you sell nationally, who's buying what in which state? Where are your biggest sales in terms of state by state? So this could give you information on what product lines you might want to sell or which areas you might want to target in terms of demographics or geography, so that, again, you're not wasting your time doing the wrong things. Instead, you're spending your time focused on the areas that can really bring you revenue and bring in business for you. Since Outright captures all of your financial information in one spot, it lets you very easily create reports for tax time. So your Schedule C report or your tax report or your sales tax report that you need in order to prep for tax time, you can very quickly and easily print that out and then send that to your tax preparer so that they can follow up and do the rest of the hard work for you. This is all without lots of tiers. As I mentioned, QuickBooks can be extremely painful and hard to use. You don't need a bookkeeper or an accountant in order to use Outright. It's designed for the needs of small business people. So Outright is a great tool for keeping track of all of the dollars in your business. Now, of course, you're probably in business because you love doing what you do, but you need to always keep an eye on the money. That's just good business. It's smart business. And Outright makes that easy. There's no data entry. It integrates with the tools you're already using to download your stuff. It's not hard to use like QuickBooks is and other accounting tools. It's meant to be easy for you to use. When it's time to create reports for tax time or for your own just data analysis, it's really easy to do that. You don't need to spend hours trying to figure out how to create reports. It's literally just a few clicks away using Outright. And Outright is free to start, which is a great incentive to try out a new tool, especially since we're at the beginning of the year. If you're at all unhappy with your current accounting tool, it's a really good time to consider switching to a different one. And this could be a great avenue for you to take with Outright.
Excellent. It's so funny because I'm sitting here with Jake and I'm laughing. I'm like, man, I got to totally get on Outright. I've been so locked into QuickBooks, and talk about tier inducing. I absolutely relate to that. So if anyone has any questions for this part, and actually if anyone has questions about the entire presentation, now's the time to go ahead and put those in the question box and we'll get them answered. We actually also do have Ryan Thompson of Outright on the call as well, so we're able to ask some questions there. So our first one that we have is, what's the difference between the paid accounts and the free accounts? Or paid account and free account?
Are we talking about in Outright?
Yes.
So if Ryan is on the line, he could probably answer that a bit better than I can. I know that Outright is completely free as of right now. I believe in the future at some point the paid account will let you generate additional reports and do a few more things. I'm not an expert on what the difference between the two are right now, but as far as I know, as of right now today, Outright is completely free.
Unmuted.
Hey, Josh, this is Ryan. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, I was just going to jump in. So what you said is right on. We have a series of kind of more advanced reports that are specific to taxes And access to those reports, as well as kind of a longer history of data. So if you want to see more than a year of data, that's what we charge the $10 a month for. But if you sign up today, everything in Outright is free through April. And we're doing that because the IRS had made some changes this year in reporting. And so we're trying to be as helpful as we can to small businesses so they have access to all of their data this year.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great information. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to mute Ryan again. And just basically, there's just a few questions, I think, in terms of how this maybe compares to Quicken or QuickBooks. And I mean, I can speak to that right off the bat and just say that for you to not have to worry about a software program that's on your computer that's going to quickly outdate, it's going to get outdated maybe with your operating systems, or just that they have new things. That's the benefit of any of these cloud and sort of web-based applications, is that when they have a fix to something or if there's a bug, you're able to get that update right away. One other question that we have for you is, can you input into Outright any other tax-related info? I don't know if there's maybe more of a clarification, but maybe you get that question a lot, Ryan. I'm unmuting you again. Okay, go ahead. So the question again is, can you input into Outright any other tax-related information? Ryan, are you on the call? Do you happen to know the answer to that, Josh?
I don't know the answer, but what I would suggest is Outright will be hosting another one of these webinars soon. That would be a great question to follow up with them at that time.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a really good point. We've got a whole, you can, and he actually is even just telling me that you can manually enter pretty much anything as needed. But the good news is, exactly, our next webinar on Tuesday is going to be specifically about Outright. It's going to be about receipts, taxes, how to make sure that you're, complying for all your accounting stuff. So yeah, tune in with us on Tuesday, and you'll get a lot of those questions answered. One other question that we have, actually, I think that we really, the only other question that we have is just kind of some clarification in the differences between Outright and Stitch. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to have us skip past that and just say that on our final call on the, well, next week we can address it a little bit, but then definitely in the managing inventory one with Stitch, we're going to be able to address that a lot more, which is the last one in our series. So for now, let's keep going, Josh.
Great. Just a couple things, and then we'll wrap up. One of the questions I get a lot is there's so much to know about online tools, and it can be really overwhelming if you're not super invested in this space. If you just want to get started, how do you do it? Here's how. First, get really clear on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to better manage your inventory? Are you trying to get your receipts and business cards under control? What is it that you're trying to do? Choose the tool that lets you do that better, more simply, more quickly, or just without pain. So you select one of the online tools that solves that particular problem. Before you get started, you want to read up on the privacy policies and the security policies to make sure that you're comfortable using the tool. And then don't feel like you necessarily have to go all in. You get to meter out how much data you put into these tools so that you get to gain some skill and some mastery with them before you enter everything. So you want to get comfortable, enter some stuff, and then enter more. And before you go and add another tool into the mix, make sure you've gotten some really good practice under your belt with the one you've chosen first so that you're not trying to confuse things with two different tools that you're trying to learn at the same time. I see people get really overwhelmed. And often you just need to take a step back, choose a tool, one, and then work on that one for a while before you move on to the next one. I just want to make mention of a couple of special offers. To find all of these tools, all these online applications, and many, many others that I personally have hand-selected, just go to my website at customlivingsolutions.com. If you click on Productivity Toolbox, you'll gain instant access to my favorite list of tools. These are things that I personally use, recommend, and share with my clients all the time. And in the spirit of helping other small business owners, I want to make sure that you have access to more productivity and organizing information. And so I want to give you a very exclusive 50% off discount to all of the products that are in the Custom Living Solutions store. So if you go to customlivingsolutions.com/products and select a tool that you might want to use in your business, and if you use the coupon code CREATIVE at checkout, you'll get 50% off. And this is through the end of the month. So this is a great way for you to get started in 2012.
Fantastic. Look at us ending all right on time. That's wonderful. So thank you so much, Josh. That was really helpful.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah, just real quick, wanted to make sure you guys are all tuning in for our next ones. You're all signed up, so you'll be getting some reminders. We've got 2 next week, and then the final one on the 24th. So we look forward to having you on those calls. Thanks again.